I'm standing at the intersection of Pecan and 12th Street. 100 years ago, I would have been smack dab in the middle of a city within the city of Huntington Beach. Curious? Watch the story.
I'm Chris Epting. I'm a writer and a storyteller, the author of several books and many articles about Huntington Beach. And what I like best is uncovering history that you may not be familiar with. This is Hidden Huntington Beach.
Talk about an incredible piece of hidden history here in Huntington Beach. I'm at the corner of 11th and Acacia, and look at this. It's an actual hitching post that's more than 100 years old. This is literally where people would tie their horses up to. Now, why does the age of it make it important? Because more than 100 years ago means it was here when the Methodist tent camp was here as well. Let's take a walk and I'll tell you more about the history of the camp. In 1874, in upstate New York, a Methodist minister gave birth to something called the Chautauqua movement. The Chautauqua movement was kind of a social, cultural movement that involved preachers and music and sermons and all kinds of, kind of a traveling circus, a cultural force that would travel around the country in the form of tent cities. Well, in the late 1800s, one of the Methodist tent cities came to Long Beach, and it was a big one. In 1905, the newly formed city of Huntington Beach made that tent city an offer they couldn't refuse. So they uprooted and they moved over here to Huntington Beach and created one of the most celebrated, vaunted Methodist tent camps in history. Going in search of hidden history is weird sometimes when there's no frame of reference, when there's nothing left at all. So you've really got to rely on your imagination. I'm trying to imagine right now what it must have been like more than 100 years ago, standing right here, just a few blocks away from the ocean here on 12th Street as I approach Pecan. I would have been surrounded by people camping in hundreds of tents. There would have been food cooking, the sound of children, music, speeches, all kinds of activity, very carnival-esque kind of atmosphere. And right behind me would have been the famed Methodist Tabernacle Auditorium. I'm standing right in front of it. Why don't we go back a little bit? I'll go right in the middle of where it was to give you some more perspective. I'm standing literally in what would have been the center of the Tabernacle Auditorium. The auditorium was the centerpiece of the tent city. Thousands of people would gather here for speeches, sermons, even basketball games. It was the focal point of everything in the community. Everything sort of started and ended here. And when you look at the old photos of it, it's hard to imagine that standing right here in this intersection would have been this incredible structure that was abandoned after 1920 when the camp went away. It sat here for about 15 or 20 years afterwards before eventually burning down. But you know, in terms of hidden Huntington Beach, it may not be here, but I really feel that when you stand here at this intersection, you can kind of feel the energy of the place. When you look at the photos, when you read about what happened here, there's something very significant, and you do actually, to me, feel the palpable force of the place right here. So what exact area did the Methodist tent camp encompass? It was bordered by 11th Street, Orange Avenue, 13th Street, and Acacia Avenue. From 1905 to about 1920, this area was a popular, bustling hub of activity. When the Methodist camp first moved here from Long Beach in 1905, the church was excited, and headlines appeared all over the country about the big grand opening that summer. It was huge news, not just in Huntington Beach, but all over the country, that a camp of this size and importance was going up here. Interestingly, it was reported that one aspect of Huntington Beach that was so appealing to the Methodists was that no liquor would ever be sold in town. Once the auditorium was completed, the popular sermons, speeches, and programs got underway. But as busy as people were at camp, of course, they also still found time to visit the beautiful beaches. Hey, they were just a few blocks away from the water. As time went on, other groups would rent the campground for other large-scale events. The GAR, Grand Army of the Republic, which was comprised of Civil War veterans, had already been staging their events in Huntington Beach for a number of years, and so they loved having access to the new campgrounds. Looking at images of those reunions today, it's impressive to think of all of the Civil War veterans who once visited here. Individuals and families could also rent tents here at the campgrounds during the summer, providing one of the most affordable vacations anyplace. About $8 would get you a tent for 2 people for 2 weeks. And there was also some local school and sports history that happened at the tent camp too. La Bolsa High School, also referred to as the High School on Wheels because of how frequently it moved around, came to town in the early 1900s and eventually became what we know today as Huntington Beach High School. While the school was being built, classes convened at the Methodist Auditorium and sports were played on the grounds as well. Here's a rare picture of the 1908 Huntington Beach High School basketball team posing in front of the auditorium. Walking around the neighborhood today, I'm left wishing there was something here from the past. And then I remembered. The corner market at Acacia and 11th. The building dates back to 1915, which means it would have been there for the last 5 years that the tent camp existed. So I went to see Suzanne Iacono, who runs the market today, with her husband John. So Suzanne, you and your husband opened this, the corner market a couple of years ago. What did you know about the history of the building when you first came into it?
We didn't know a lot about it. We just knew that it had been, previous to us owning it, a market and a liquor store, and a lot of our customers now actually come in and give us a lot of history on the building.
It's one of the really historic buildings in the neighborhood. It's totally charming. For business seems great today. Everyone's coming over here, right? But did you know that it was sort of built to help accommodate, the story about the Methodist tent camp? This plays a part in it because this building has been here more than 100 years. It was created to sort of help, when you had, thousands of people tent camping here, they needed a market, they needed places to get supplies. So it's really tied into the story. Do you know anything about the tent encampment?
I don't. I would love to know more about it.
Well, why don't we walk maybe a block or two? I'll tell you a little bit about it, and
Perfect.
we can kind of fill in the blanks. But this is, again, I'm so glad you're here. I know the city loves the place.
Thank you.
Let's take a walk.
All right, sounds good.
So the camp really opens here officially in 1905, moves over from Long Beach, and it's Methodist tent camp, and they would have, sermons and all kinds of festivities and things. But then little by little, it morphs into other things as well. You could come here and rent a tent as an individual for $1 a week if you wanted to.
Oh my gosh.
Literally a couple of blocks from the beach,
crazy.
$1 a week. And then there was a group called the Grand Army of the Republic, which were basically Civil War veterans.
Oh, okay.
They start having their functions here as well. And there are great photos
Right.
of all the great old war veterans. As those guys start to die out, you've got other war groups from World War I, Spanish-American War. They start having their festivities here as well. So it becomes really kind of a multi-purpose tent campground for people who are just individuals, families on vacation, all kinds of things. And it goes on for about 15 years here in Huntington Beach. And your market, obviously after 1915 when it's built, becomes part of the scene and a thing for people to go to and get supplies and things
awesome.
like that. Yeah.
That's a really good history.
You know,
And what ended up making the encampment go away?
There's one thing that stopped it, and it stopped a lot of things, and it started a lot of things in Huntington Beach. That was the discovery of oil.
Okay.
Once oil was discovered, all of a sudden you had all kinds of open land here, but once oil started, because it was a premium,
Yeah.
And then that tent campground all of a sudden was a lot more valuable. They were finding oil around here, and that's what really dried it up. We have these great photos, though, of how the giant auditorium, the Tabernacle Auditorium, which could seat a couple of thousand people, that sat there for a number of years, into the 30s, in fact.
Oh, wow.
Before it burned down. So we've got these really cool aerial shots where you can actually see your store. I'll show them to you.
Oh,
in the
I would love that.
aerials
That's
with
super
the
cool.
tent camp still there a couple of blocks away.
Oh, wow.
So now when you come to work, hopefully
I have a whole new...
you can know right across
new
the
thought,
street was
yeah.
the start of this massive tent camp that for years, so many things went on here, so many families grew up here summer after summer after summer for 15 years.
Yeah.
And you can help tell part of the story now. And we've got to get you, I think, copies of the photos of your
love that.
store, these aerials. So
I
you
know
can
a lot
sort
of people
show,
would enjoy
well, you can
seeing
show
that.
people now, this is where we were, this is what was going on back then.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
So now you know a little bit more about the city that was within the city of Huntington Beach, the famed Methodist tent camp that once sat near here at the intersection of 12th and Pecan. Next time you cross this intersection, just know you'd be right in the middle of the famed Tabernacle Auditorium, one of the great lost pieces of Huntington Beach, but a piece of hidden history nevertheless. Thanks again for watching. Hi, this is Chris Epting with a little bonus edition of Hidden Huntington Beach. If you saw episode 3, you know I'm standing at Seacliff Shopping Village. We did a whole episode here all about the old bird tile murals that existed in the mid-1970s. When we put the episode together, the one issue was we didn't have good quality color photographs of what the place looked like decades ago. What happened since the show aired is I started a Facebook group called Hidden Huntington Beach. We've had thousands of members join in the last few weeks, and a lot of them are sharing terrific stories and memories and photos. Thanks to a woman named Norma Henniger and a gentleman named Gary Potter, we actually have now color photos that I wanted to share with you right now of what this great center looked like back when it opened, back when it was bird themed, where you could walk around and see displays and all sorts of great tiled murals and things that celebrated birds, especially the Pacific Flyway here in Huntington Beach. It's so generous of our group members to share these things, and I hope you join the Facebook group if you like hearing bonus stories and seeing photos like this. Something else I learned in putting the group together was about a film called Tulsa that was shot just over my shoulder back beyond the mall, the shopping center here, in 1948, starring Susan Hayward and Robert Preston, two sisters back then. Mary Keith and Jane Ritter sent me photos of what it was like to go out there on location, get the autographs of the stars, and take part in watching this major production film here in Huntington Beach. It's one of my favorite aspects of the show, Hidden Huntington Beach, is learning these stories from people like you. So if you want to join, go to Facebook, look for Hidden Huntington Beach, join the group. If you have any questions or thoughts or ideas for episodes, let me know and we'll be in touch about that. But in the meantime, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little bonus episode, and I'll see you soon.